Hey, how's it going? My name is Rosendo. I am a full-timer here at Major League Hacking. So I just wanted to jump on the stream and let you know that we have an amazing and special guest here by title and virtue, I guess you could say. Specialist Atkins is going to be joining us from the U.S. Space Force. So without any further ado, I'll go ahead and bring her onto the screen. Hi, how's it going, Specialist Atkins?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. I was just like passing on the mic to you and seeing whether or not you wanted to say a couple of words before we begin.
Yeah. My title is Specialist Hayley Adkins. I am in the U.S. Space Force. I've been in for about a little over 7 months now, and my career field is cyber transport systems. A little bit about me. I'm from Warner Robins, Georgia. I've been to college, so I did the whole college thing before the military, and that's pretty much it. That's all I got right now.
Awesome. Well, I'm really glad to have you on the stream today, and really thank you for joining us. I do want to mention to everyone that's out there watching, if you have any questions for Specialist Adkins or for myself or just in general, go ahead and feel free to leave them in the comments section there. Now, with that being said, yeah, you mentioned that you had gone to college, and that was prior to getting enlisted, essentially. Could you tell us a little bit more about why you decided to join the Space Force?
So, when I did graduate college, I knew I wanted a job where I could travel, leave my hometown, and just experience something new. And then I just kept thinking to myself, I wanted stability, obviously, and an experience like nothing else I've ever done. So I was like, the military, that might be it. And then I was thinking to myself, well, there's all these different branches, and obviously I'm not fit for most of them. So I went to the Air Force and went to the recruiter, and I said, look, I'm really interested in the cyber field. And he said, well, have you heard of the Space Force? And I was like, I mean, just on the news, I didn't know that was an actual thing yet. And he said, I'll get back to you. Give me a list of jobs you would be interested in. So I literally just IT after IT cyber jobs, a whole list of them. And about a week later, he called me and he said, I got you a job in the Space Force. And I was like, wow, that's great. So, I knew the Space Force really lines up with my career interests and my personal interests. So I know it will give me the experience and training in cyber that will help me down the road.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that you had interests in IT and cyber and technology prior to actually when you were speaking to the recruiter. How long have you had interests in technology?
I would say not until after high school. I never really was into computers, and then I had some friends that went to school for IT, and they would tell me about it, and I didn't know how vast cyber was, how many different fields you could go into. And I was like, you know what? I'll just take a introductory course, see how I like it. And I kind of found myself being really good at it. So I was like, you know what? I'll explore this.
Absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't hurt being good at something, I guess, right? As far as, chasing that dream and
Yeah.
making it something that you want to do as a career.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah, you know what? That's awesome. I did IT for many years myself. I worked in IT actually for 10 years at an ad agency. So I could definitely relate to the vastness of the field and the many different types of disciplines that you could enter into.
Hmm.
So leads me to my next question. So because you're in IT and you're doing cyber within Space Force, in your opinion, what purpose do you think the Space Force serves overall?
Well, there's the whole generic answer, like to protect the U.S. in
Hmm.
space and its interest in space. But also, just since I've been in, I've seen how much our country, well, the world, relies on space. You just have the example of GPS, like the satellites in space kind of not dictate, but really help us in all that we do. And if we didn't have, that communication between us down here and up there, a lot of our way of life would be, I don't know, like it would be scary to think what would happen if we didn't have that communication.
Hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. I think it might be important to note as well, some of the earliest advancements in global positioning systems actually came out of the Air Force, or like what was
Mm-hmm.
the space related portions of the Air Force prior to the Space Force becoming
Yeah.
its own entity. So that's really interesting that you bring that up. You mentioned that obviously you mentioned the importance of the Space Force, like what kind of research and development that they're putting forward, and the kind of role that they serve, I guess, within the U.S. Just zooming in a little bit more to your specific role, how did you land the cyber transport systems career?
Well, it kind of goes back to me sitting down with my recruiter and
Hmm.
explaining exactly what I was looking for and saying, hey, cyber's it. That's all that's gonna sell me on getting in the Space Force. And so I had a list, and my specific career field wasn't my first choice. Actually, I was hoping to get a programming job, and but when you go into any branch of the military, and specifically the Space Force, you have to understand that it's service before self. So the needs of the Space Force comes first, and they needed me for cyber transport systems. So, I was like, oh, it's not my first, but I'm excited to learn about it, and it's still within cyber, so I'm sure I'll be able to learn, programming or whatever else I'm interested in. So I really give all the credit to my recruiter, because I was really stern with him, like, this is what I want, and he helped make it happen.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I totally get it. There are needs within the organization, and you're filling a specific need within the organization. And I'm sure somewhere along the way, in terms of your career journey, you'll pick up the skills that you're very interested in. Um, Speaking of picking up skills, really, my next question is more so about your journey through technical school, and like if you could just kind of describe that, and maybe give a little more detail as to what went into that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I would like to say start at the very beginning of my journey. Like after going to the
Of course.
recruiter and doing that whole process, you still have to go through basic military training. I mean,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, you are in the military. So you're just gonna, with the basic training portion, you're gonna learn the basics, obviously, how to speak to your superiors, how to be a part of such a diverse organization. Like I met people from states that I've never been to, and places I've never heard of, even people from around the world.
Hmm.
And I became really good friends with them, and learned how to work with people that just think differently. And that that basic training is helped me throughout. It's helping me now while I'm in operational. But after basic training, you are sent to technical training, and that is where you learn the specifics about your job. So
Hmm.
mine was cyber transport, and so I went to Keesler Air Force Base in Mississippi for about 4 months, and you take a IT fundamentals course with all kinds of people from all cyber fields. And then you go into the specifics. So I went into the specific of cyber transport systems. And that was a self-paced course. And, you know, thinking about it, when I was in college, I took like a networking course, which is pretty much what cyber transport systems is. and I could not stand it. I hated networking. I just could not grasp it. And when I was in technical training and I actually got to do hands-on labs and working with different computer parts like switches and routers, I really loved it. I learned to love it. I was really good at it, and technical training really gave me that experience that I was looking for that I never got prior.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned that, and then once I was done with the school, the Space Force makes you get a certification for the CompTIA Security Plus.
Mm-hmm.
So I did about 3 weeks of studying that really hardcore, and I was able to get that certification from the Space Force. And then I was off to operational, and that was tech school. I really learned a lot. It was very fast paced, but you do have to be patient. Like, you have to trust yourself that you will learn this material. It may feel overwhelming at first, but it's fun. You learn a
Mm-hmm.
lot in the short amount of time that you are there.
Absolutely. You mentioned, taking some courses in college prior to the military, and
Mm-hmm.
you also mentioned the courses that you were taking in the military as part of your training, and
Mm-hmm.
also your certification for CompTIA. I'm curious to know um, which it sounds like I know which learning experience you preferred, but I was just like, I wanted to hear it from you.
Well, yes, for me, I really enjoyed the hands-on part, which
Hmm.
the Space Force provided. They they really let you get down to each part of the computer, learning, and you have an instructor right there beside you, teaching you and explaining to you how you will use this in the operational part of your career. Even use it if there's a chance I ever get deployed. When I was in college, it was a little more, lecture, um, learning on my own. So I never really got that one-on-one experience that the Space Force provided me.
Absolutely. I can definitely see that. I think being able to touch something and feel something and then see what it is that you're doing and just, kind
Hmm.
of get that immediate feedback that, maybe a lecture hall doesn't provide you. I can definitely
Yeah.
relate with that. We're talking about skills, we're talking about, different learning styles and the different things that you've learned thus far at this point in your career. Um, I'm curious, what unique skill do you think you were taught during your cyber transport systems school that differ from other cyber careers or would differ from other disciplines people maybe learn about?
Yeah, for sure. So cyber transport systems is kind of like the networking side of
Hmm.
IT, pretty much. And I was in a communication squadron in tech school, so we focused a lot on the comm side of things. So when you say specific skills I learned, it was definitely the specific of how does a computer communicate with with other computers across the network. I
Hmm.
learned, from the physical all the way up until learning about exactly like the network. And so I guess, I don't want to get too specific, but the first three layers of the OSI model, the physical layer, the data link layer, and the networking layer, that's really what we focused on. And I think that's what differentiates with other cyber fields is we are kind of like at the core, the base of how to get the network going and working.
Hmm. Absolutely. You mentioned OSI for, folks out there that may not know what that stands for. Could you let us know what that is?
Yeah, it's just a better way to visualize how a computer or a computer network works. So I'm at the first three levels, and that's pretty much what I focus on. And everything above that is like above me. Like, it's still hard for me to understand how that all operates. But I would encourage everyone, if you want to know more about how a computer operates, go look up the OSI model. There's 7 layers, and it really helps you visualize in your head how data transfers through a computer.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the core principles of networking for all of y'all joining us. Open systems, interconnection, definitely check it out. And yeah, there are 7 layers, and they all have different meanings and importances, obviously, in networking and in cybersecurity in general. So it's so awesome that you're, learning about these things and like, being able to have hands-on experience. I know that for a lot of people just entering their career, it takes a long time to get some like, kind of relevant or impactful hands-on experience. I think a lot of the times, like, there's a lot of hand-holding, especially for people who enter into the career early on. For you, I feel like, you're kind of already getting a lot of that experience hands-on. I guess leads me to my next question, just based on, what you learned in technical training, why do you think cyber transport systems is important?
So when you ask that, it really takes me back to my time in technical training. And every day before we were dismissed to be, free from the schoolhouse, we would have a little chant. And part of it would say, no comms, no bombs. And if you really think about that, without communications, the Space Force would not have that link to the satellites to be able to communicate with them, and even other branches that may depend on us. Those who are deployed, they might not get the messages that they need in time without the communications or the cyber transport system career field.
Of course. And with that, like without the cyber transport systems, without it, like what kind of threats do you think our nation would encounter?
I'm sure the list could go on, because it's how we communicate with each other. I mean, if something's happening on the other side of the nation and I'm here in Colorado, without that communication between the 2 points on the map, how will we know? How will the Space Force bases here be able to help with whatever's happening on the other side of the country or on the other side of the world?
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think, cutting off communication or just like, having a lack of information transferring back and forth is definitely something that is like super relevant just in general across like cybersecurity. I think that's something that a lot of folks in that field kind of focus on with regards to like, vulnerabilities and whatnot. Like I mentioned before, I think it's really awesome that you can go in to the Space Force and kind of have that direct impact on such a widely used network, I guess, right?
Yeah, of course.
So in the next couple of months of being operational, could you tell us about how your actions or your tasks on a day-to-day basis have denied these these, I guess, bad actors or adversaries, and kept our like system safe?
Well, for me personally, I've just stepped into the operational field, and I'm still learning from my superiors, the people who have been in for a little longer than me, and I'm getting that training so that I can be in there with them and in the secret rooms, learning all this stuff and seeing all the stuff that our adversaries might be doing. And I'm really excited to see that stuff. But me personally, I haven't got there yet, and I know it's coming in a few months. I just got to be patient. That's like a thing I said with Space Force. You have to be patient, because the good things will come. And I've been patient this whole time, and I know I'm going to finally start to see the exciting things that I've been learning and be able to put it to use.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to do that as well. I think, from what you're telling me, it sounds like you've gotten a ton of training, and it's like, really relevant in preparing you for what it is you're going to be doing throughout the rest of your career. Speaking of your career in particular, I know that, obviously you've gotten a lot of training. Would you like to talk a little bit more about how the experience and training you've received at the U.S. Space Force has improved you as an individual?
Oh yeah, of course. I I go back to the very core, like basic training has really taught me just those core values to put the service before self, to be able to be respectful to my superiors and respect all that they did before me joining. Like I really respect those that have served, and then I move into technical training and those little details I've learned about cyber and all that. It's not only like made me more aware for the job, but like everywhere I go, I'm constantly in my head thinking, where would we be without the cyber side of things? So yeah, a lot of stuff has impacted me, and I'm really excited to use all these skills I've learned. Not even, you know, when I go to work, but throughout my entire life.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can see that. Like obviously don't use password as a password, but
Yeah.
like just being able to see vulnerabilities or just being able to apply that domain specific knowledge that you've accrued, right? Like on a day-to-day
Mhm.
basis, I think it's super interesting. Um, so I mean, we've talked about your training and like, how you feel like it's improved you as an individual. Um, and I know you've talked about like, being in that secret room or like, waiting for your chance to really
Mhm.
like, make a difference. What just more on that, like, what do you think the next steps in your career are? And like, what does the future, like maybe long-term look like for you?
I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and I honestly I've come to the conclusion I don't know, and I think that's one of the great things about being in the Space Force is they push you to succeed no matter what. They push you to succeed to stay in, or they give you the skills and the training. They encourage you to get the education that will help you when you get out.
Mhm.
So I still have about 3 years left on my contract, but I'm excited to see like where I'll be at in 3 years. I might want to take these skills and move somewhere else or stay in the Space Force. But as of right now, I'm really enjoying the Space Force and all that it's teaching me. So I can't quite say yet, but I have a feeling that they may sucker me in for a little longer.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying your time there. I think, honestly, everything that you've said just now is like really indicative of someone who is like, happy with where they're currently at. So
Mhm.
that's amazing to hear. I guess just one last question is, where can I find, or where can someone like myself or like the people watching today be able to find more information about your job or those like it?
Well, you definitely could go to spaceforce.com, obviously, to find a lot of information, but I really would encourage people to, you know, take the plunge, go in and talk to a recruiter because they are there to help you, to help you with every little question you have, whether it be personal questions or what you seek out in the Space Force or your career. And Space Force doesn't have a recruiting office. We do it through the Air Force because we are under the Department of Air Force. So, yeah, everybody go to your local Air Force recruiter and tell them your interests. And I promise you, they will help you no matter what.
That sounds amazing. You know what? Like honestly, like I feel like everything that you've said thus far is kind of like pointing me towards this conclusion that at the Space Force everything is very much like about providing the resources, the necessary guidance, and also being able to assess people's skills and like put them on a track that they feel that that individual would actually succeed at. So I don't know if
Yes, of
that's like
course.
if that assessment is accurate to you or not, but
No, that's 100% accurate. Yes, they will do anything to help you succeed.
that's amazing. Well, I'm really glad to have gotten all this information from you. I'm glad that we got the opportunity to talk about your career. I'd never spoken to a specialist 3 before. Um,
Yeah.
And you know, as far as like the rest of your career journey is concerned, whether or not you get suckered in, as you put it, into another 4 years or another contract,
Mhm.
I really do wish you the best of luck in the future, and you know, I really look forward to what it is you're gonna do next. I hope you check in at another point in time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. You know, with that being said, that's really all the questions we have for today. It doesn't look like we have any, like, you know, much questions in the chat here. So I guess we can call it a day for now. Once again, y'all,
Awesome.
it's Specialist 3, Hayley A. Adkins. That's the complete title, but Specialist Adkins
Yeah.
will suffice. From the U.S. Space Force, talking to us today about her career journey. Thank you so much once again.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, y'all. Have a good day.